Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Shravanam Diaries Podcast.
Reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, the book by His Divine Grace Abhayacharanaravindha Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, Text 24. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahmakarma samadhina. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Consummation is absolute. Sanskrit says Agnau, in the fire of consummation. Okay, so that's spiritual fire. Okay. Purport. How activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in the following verses. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere, and yet he has to get out of such an environment. The process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk products is cured by another milk product, namely curds, yogurts, right? The materially absorbed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness, as set forth here in the Gita. This process is generally known as Yajna, or activities, sacrifices, simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Krishna consciousness, or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahman, means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual, and the rays of His transcendental body are called Brahma Jyoti. His spiritual effulgence. Everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyoti. But when the Jyoti is covered by illusion, Maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together Brahman, or the absolute truth. Okay, let's read this again. So the material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the offering, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together, Brahman, or the absolute truth. Let's give the example to remember. Let's say we are feeding lots of devotees with delicious prasadam. Okay? So the offering, that's the offering. Lots of delicious prasadam. The consuming agent of such an offering or contribution are the wonderful devotees of the Lord. The process of consumption is Mahaprasada Govinde. Everyone is honoring prasadam. The contributor is the devotee who is offering, and the result is that everyone is satisfied. Okay, so all of this is the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter, dovetailed for the cause of the absolute truth, regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman, or the Supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi, or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called Yajna, or sacrifice for the absolute. If your mind is fully absorbed, you're in samadhi, and anything done in this consciousness is Yajna. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the Supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. Okay. Text 25. Daivam eva pare yagyam yogina paryupasate brahmagnava pare yagyam yagyenaivo pajuhvati. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Purport. As described above, a person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi, or a first-class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman, or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, who is also known as Yajna. So Yajna is his name. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely, sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of material. Oh, I'm so sorry. I jumped to the next line. Okay. Two divisions. Sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. Okay. Jai. Those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy demigods such as Indra. He is the demigod of thunder and heavenly planets, the sun god, etc. And others who are impersonalists sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman. The demigods are powerful living entities appointed by the Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of all material functions like the heating, watering, and lighting of the universe. Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals. They are called Bhagvishvara Vadi, or believers in many gods. So these people have always existed. We call them pantheists, right? They believe that there are many gods. Whereas Vedanta, actual Vedanta, it talks about one Ishvara. Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabe Nritya, or how is that called? Nritya, no. There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita which says that there's only one Ishvara, means one supreme God. Everyone else is a servant. But these people, they say Bhagvishvara Vadi. They think there are many gods. Okay, but others who worship the impersonal feature of the absolute truth and regard the forms of the demigods as temporary, sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire, and thus end their individual existences by merging into the existence of the Supreme. Such impersonalists sacrifice their time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme. In other words, the fruitive workers sacrifice their material possession for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonalist sacrifices his material designations with a view to merging into the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalist, the fire altar of sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed by the fire of Brahman. The Krishna conscious person, like Arjuna, however, sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus all his material possessions as well as his own self, everything, is sacrificed for Krishna. Thus, he is the first-class yogi, but he does not lose his individual existence. Jai, very important point. Alright, so next couple of verses we will be listing the different types of sacrifices. Okay. Jai. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The book links, previous episodes timeline, and biography of the author can be found on shravanamdiaries.com. The link is in the description, and we shall see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Ram Ram